Annapolis native Frederick Gregory has gone where few others have gone before. He's been in Vietnam, he's flown Air Force jets, and he's been in high orbit. Byron Scott has our globe-trekking story.
I think at a very early age, I was exposed to things that gave me a sense that there was a lot to see out there.
76-year-old Fred Gregory has always had his sights set on all that was out there. And fortunately for him, he had parents who supported his curiosity.
I grew up in a family in D.C. Where my parents' response to me on any question I asked was yes. They would never tell me no. They were both school teachers in D.C.
Gregory says his childhood was chock full of life experiences.
And so my dad exposed me to things such as tennis. He liked tennis. He also would take me to air shows and sports car racing when I was very, very young. I went to camp in Massachusetts. The owner of the camp, the last name was Hart, professor at Howard at that point. I was a Boy Scout, traveled at 11 years old on a train from D.C. To Los Angeles for a Boy Scout jamboree. I went to a camp in northern New Mexico at 12 and 13, again a Boy Scout camp, and traveled by bus. So I think by the time I was 13, I'd seen most of the country without any parental supervision.
Gregory, who was the nephew of Dr. Charles Drew, the physician who started the first blood bank, also knew General Benjamin Davis Jr., the Air Force's first black general. He was a family friend.
And I remember as a very youngster, 5, 6 years old, sitting and listening to him talk about, and the other friends who were there, talk about this adventure that they had been on, and it was clear that these weren't commercial pilots, these were fighter pilots, and they talked with their hands and talked about tactics and the enemy and things of that nature.
Gregory will go on to the Air Force Academy. He flew helicopters in Vietnam and piloted fixed-wing aircraft. Later, he would become a test pilot, and in the late 1970s, he decided to join NASA and go into outer space. But first, he had to overcome an obstacle that had nothing to do with race.
You have to accept the fact that you can die. And if you don't accept it, then you wouldn't go.
In Annapolis, Byron Scott, CTV News.
And Byron Scott continues our profile tomorrow. Frederick Gregory, who would go on to be the first black man pilot and command space shuttle flights. Well, he became the first African-American state's attorney in Prince George's County, but Alexander Williams says his career path was an arduous road. In the second of 3 segments honoring the retired federal judge, we look at his climb up the ladder to become the county's top prosecutor.
In 1985, I gathered most, if not all, of the community leaders in the county for a special meeting with me, and I told them that I had an interest in running for the state's attorney's job in the county, and they talked about it because they had an incumbent who had been in 24 years, and they knew it would be very tough to win. But we had no presence, I say we, the African American community, had no presence in the 5 countywide positions.
Williams went on to become a federal judge, receiving his confirmation only a month before the 1994 primary election. But according to the retired judge, it was a bruising battle to the top.
And of course, right from the start, I ran into difficulties with the American Bar Association. They did not feel that I was qualified for that seat, having been a state litigator and not having any experience in the federal bench. They were I guess it was the blue chip law firms were totally unaware of who I was, not comfortable with me, and so ultimately they issued a recommendation of not qualified.
And despite the controversy, Williams became the first black federal judge under the Clinton administration. Tomorrow, in honor of Black History Month, we bring you the third and final segment on Williams. We'll tell you what he's doing after retirement and why his #1 goal is motivating young people. Well, he beat a longtime incumbent to become the first African-American state's attorney in Prince George's County. From there, Alexander Williams was appointed to a federal judgeship under President Clinton. In honor of Black History Month, the final segment of our 3-part series takes a look at life after retirement for Williams, including a stint as mediator for the Freddie Gray case in Baltimore.
Doing some mediations and arbitrations, and the lawyers in the Freddie Gray case asked me to mediate or serve as a mediator for that case. It took 3 sessions, but we were able to put together a good package for the family and for the city of $6.4 million. So that was a great resolution and settlement.
He now heads the Judge Alexander Williams Jr. Center for Education, Justice, and Ethics, and Williams says he was always an underdog in his field and wants to help young people with similar challenges.
A lot of my teachers back then didn't feel that I was college material, so I had to overcome. And when I came out here to practice law, a lot of people didn't think I had what it took to become the state's attorney for Prince George's County. And then trying to get on the federal bench, I also ran into those who just didn't have any confidence that I had the qualifications for it. And so I wanted to capture that experience and that struggle that I've had to overcome throughout my life, and hopefully it will give inspiration to others.
And Williams expects to finish his autobiography in the next few weeks. And by the way, the retired judge holds not only a law degree, but 2 master's degrees in religion and ethics.